2016 was a divisive year to say the least. In the wake of Donald Trump's election to the presidency of the United States, we've seen a new war being waged in the infosphere, and it's a war on two different fronts, depending on who you talk to. There are those who resolutely believe that our near unlimited access to all manner of types of information and opinions has resulted in the rise of fake news, which endeavors to send a message, any message, regardless of its veracity, to its audience. And then there are people who believe that intellectualism itself is being attacked by those more inclined to believe their feelings over hard facts. At the heart of this strife is the information we individually choose to absorb into our lives. It's the knowledge that we obtain, or that we think we obtain. An endless pursuit of discovery, backed by thoughts of vindication and closure. So how much knowledge is too much? When we kill each other in a war of ideology? When we are emotionless because we know everything? Is it better to live with questions unanswered, and is there an argument for a life of ignorance in a world overwrought with battle between the informed and the accused opposite? Today, we look at a title that decides enough is enough. To hell with knowledge and its acquisition. Enlightenment is a disease that ravages the mind with a false sense of purpose. It obstructs peaceful tranquility, causing conflict, doubt, and pain. You are the cure. Ignorance, after all, is bliss, and you are his agent. Through broken glasses, we look at quote. The first book ever printed was the Gutenberg Bible sometime in the mid-1400s, igniting the Gutenberg Revolution and the age of printed works in the West. Of print, it was English historian John Dalberg Acton who said it gave assurance that the work of the Renaissance would last, that what was written would be accessible to all, that such an occultation of knowledge and ideas as had depressed the Middle Ages would never recur, and that not an idea would be lost. Of course, some might disagree with Lord Acton's optimism.
They say words never hurt anyone, but they twisted our world. Made it wise and cruel. Ruined it. Burn them. Burn them all. Burn everything. Once every page is ash, all shall be pure of thought.
Bliss, god of ignorance, a being who masks his malevolence behind a thin veil of benignancy. He has attempted to purge the world of knowledge out of some twisted sense of responsibility to the people who he believes have become corrupted by it, scouring their minds against their will and leaving them as brainless dimwits incapable of harming a fly, much less each other. Peace in the world, but at great cost.
Talons to pierce any hide, a spine like blunted teeth. And that smile, that awful dead sheep smile, growing wider and wider. Bliss, the god of ignorance, on his throne, in his element, laughing.
Bliss is the personification of what it means to Vindit, or shove someone in the direction of Bokononism, a fictitious religion whose primary tenet states to live by the FOMA, or harmless lies, that make you brave and kind and healthy and happy. The studio behind quote is in fact named Vindit, and I have no doubt that Bliss is a character meant to represent one who holds his untruths in high regard, to a fault. You play as Novella, a champion of Forgo, god of knowledge, and Bliss's brother. Betrayed by Bliss, Forgo burned during the purging, but remnants of knowledge remained, and its keepers raised mighty warriors to protect it. Now they've sent you into the heart of Bliss's fortress to slay the betrayer and usher in the return of enlightenment. That's the plan for about 5 minutes.
You seek freedom, then become pure of thought. Allow me to demonstrate by granting you the greatest gift of all, a beautifully empty mind.
Bliss stops you dead in your tracks, scours your mind, and sends you off on your way as his disciple, tasking you with the rooting out and destruction of the last vestiges of knowledge. Accompanying you,
Runcible, Maiutica, Slabadigallian, Tatterdemalian, Gongoozle, Borborigmus. Tatters for short.
a dopey bird thing, as the game's narrator calls him. Tatters plays two roles in your quest. One, he's a punching bag. serving as a living blunt instrument in combat against Forgo's forces, which I'll discuss in a moment, and 2, a garbage disposal. You're looking for remnants of knowledge, i.e. books, and when you've found one, Tatters will remove his beaked headpiece, revealing that his head is actually just a mouth, and eat the book. Finally, while your fists are more than capable of doling out their own brand of ignorance, Bliss, regardless, gleefully adds another weapon to your arsenal in the form of a large book, which he simply dubs the Book of Bliss, a symbol of irony designed for even more effective pummeling. The book also lends itself very well towards getting around the world with speed, as wherever the book goes, Novella goes with it.
Endless images of ice cream have been scrawled upon the ground. A dessert had become a cult, clearly.
If it's not clear already, this game is weird. The designs of the characters and the dreamlike abstractness of the game's environments are reminiscent of director-animator Terry Gilliam's work seen in Monty Python, or more recently in 2009's The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. It's not just a visual similarity either. The game's writing, penned by Alec Meir and Dan Guiliopoulos of Rock Paper Shotgun, possesses the same kind of whimsical humor typically delivered by Bliss, and wonderfully juxtaposed with the quiet, more reserved take provided by the omniscient narrator, both of whom are voiced wonderfully by the same actor.
The wall was covered in blobs of paint and dabs of abandoned ice cream. These ignoramuses seem to have a sweet, fatty tooth. Look at these daubs. Admirably obsessed, and inadvertently in my service to boot.
I'm honestly not sure who it is or if it's one of the writers voicing them, but given the accent, I like to tell myself it's Jared Harris hamming it up for us.
My nose is tingling with bog water.
Veterans of Supergiant Games' Bastion should feel right at home with Quote's isometric gameplay, which chooses to focus on comboing melee attacks in order to build up the power necessary to unleash super powerful area of effect spells. Power is also used in order to wield the mighty Book of Bliss, which can either be used to do damage or heal it. Other combat options include a not-so-gentle shove, which serves as a stun, as well as the option to add yet another stun to when you teleport using the Book of Bliss. Novella's attacks feel appropriately powerful for her having once been a champion of Forgo. Every punch, every thwack with the Book of Bliss feels like you're delivering the kinetic force of a freight train to the unfortunate heads of your enemies. But by far, one of my favorite aspects of the combat is how it manages to integrate Tatters, whilst at the same time serving as a hilarious demonstration of his character. You can punch Tatters just as you can any other enemy, but instead of taking damage, he assumes a sort of fetal position, allowing you to knock him into enemies like a bowling ball, and it's actually pretty powerful. These abilities, as well as passive upgrades to health and power, must first be unlocked by expending, or more specifically, digesting, the books that Tatters has eaten. They basically serve as skill points, but some books can be worth 2 points rather than 1. Each individual skill has 3 tiers of upgrades that can be unlocked, but the skills themselves can be unlocked in any order, providing you have the means to do so. It's unclear at this point whether or not every upgrade can be earned in a single playthrough. So where are these books? As you explore each world, you'll be picking up fragments of a quote taken from one of these relics of literature. Once you have the quote, you'll be able to enter the cave or structure in which its book rests. You can do this before you have the quote, but the trials found within will be much tougher. It's a sort of seamlessly integrated hard mode for those wishing to go that route.
The smell of ink and wood, and an author popped into existence, enraged at his lost missives. He paled at the sight of Novella. There he is!
There are also side quests in the game in which you can lure out an author whom Bliss treats as generals in Forgo's army and must be vanquished, relinquishing their printed works upon defeat for Tatters to consume. Assisting in this area are trinkets scattered around the world, which can be paired with a person or object in order to solve a puzzle, but only if the application of the trinket completes the quote the puzzle presents. The base person or object begins the quote, and the trinket finishes it. You can have 2 trinkets equipped at a time, and all of them possess passive effects that can augment Novella's abilities. And here lies my biggest criticism with the game in its current state. In my time with the pre-alpha, I've largely ignored trinkets from a combat perspective, because their bonuses are oftentimes extremely minute to the point of being nearly indiscernible. For example, I picked up a skeleton key with a tooltip that explained Novella's movement speed would be modified by 0.9. Whoa. Other times, where it seemed the trinket might actually be useful, I found myself hesitant to keep it around due to the tooltip's wording being somewhat hazy on the matter of whether it was a buff or a potential killer. Also an issue is the limited space you have to carry these things. You'll be swapping trinkets in and out to either make use of their passives or solve a series of puzzles, and your inability to carry more than 2 at a time means that chances are high your progress will be halted for a few minutes while you retrace your steps in search of an item you misplaced. These issues would be greatly alleviated if your inventory was expanded, negating most of the cumbersome work that is currently involved in seeing all that trinkets have to offer. Furthermore, I'd like to see the trinkets themselves offer more interesting bonuses. Insignificant percentage increases to movement speed or damage are forgettable, and ultimately feel like a cheap attempt at servicing stat junkies. But if you're set in providing these kinds of bonuses, then you should make them impactful, and provide some sort of visual feedback to the player when one of their trinkets has procced. Right now, it's too easy to equip and forget. And all of this lies beneath what is my ultimate confusion with the entire system. On the one hand, trinkets are used to complete puzzles, which lead to books, which lead to improving Novella's active combat abilities. But on the other, they have passive bonuses of their own. This generates conflict in the player, who must decide to either forego their trinket to complete a quest, or keep it to make use of the passive buff, locking them out of what is essentially more content to explore. I should stress that I'm basing all of these criticisms on an unfinished game, and it's quite possible that further development will see their role in the game more clearly defined, but as of right now, I find their implementation clumsy, resulting in my being in favor of a complete removal of their passive bonuses. I don't see how they add anything to an already enjoyable, visceral combat experience, not in its current state. My confusion towards the trinket system did not, however, impede my overall enjoyment of this early build of the game. The world is beautiful and abstract, and the characters whimsical, well-voiced, and fun to be around. The narrative, while comically presented, is nonetheless a multi-layered tale of the pros and cons of humanity's pursuit of knowledge that hints at a thought-provoking exploration of our preconceptions towards heroes and villains. And I have to recommend that you keep a weather eye out for this one when it launches on Steam Early Access sometime this quarter.
I hope to never know the origin of that rancid purple gunk, but it's sticky enough to hold a switch down. Useful.
Spoke Bliss with the breezy manner of someone who did not have to press his own hand into an awful indigo ichor.